Greetings. This is Celebration. My name is John Savers. I'm your host. I am going to continue today with our series of late Jews and their culture. For those of you new to Celebration, this is a program which looks at peoples and their cultures, tries to understand them better, to see what makes them tick. And we do go to your usual references and so forth. We try to bring authoritative voices from both sides, from within and without the culture. And in the process, we do feel that we are filling in the gaps a little bit, making a rounder picture for you, and in this sense, an educational process. So with that note, let's go forward with this. We have in the past talked about Jewry in terms of the flesh, and we have for some time now been talking about basic fundamental ideas in Jewry, particularly connected with the Talmud or the Kabbalah. We will continue today on that note with a particular reference for the Kabbalah. Now, on that note, let's get going. However, since God is the source of all creation, including the creation of evil, it stands to reason that no entity can possibly be purely and totally evil. All evil must contain at least some element of good, some aspect of godliness within it. How then can Amalek be deemed to be totally evil? Citation from Elijah Yudah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, page 165. Parenthetically, folks, this may have been the origin of the expression, it's an ill wind that blows no good. But be that as it may, let's go a little further into this subject. All the different forms of evil, the most well-known is the archetypal devil of Satan. Traditionally, Satan was once an archangel, that is, one of the intelligences or guardians of the world of creation. His task is to act as the tempter, to test truth, and to try out goodness at the level of the spirit. His brief is wide in that he may lie and distort the appearance of reality so as to examine the flaws for discipline, kefura, truth, tiferet, and love, hesed, of the soul triad. As one Maggid remarked, all people are good when things are going well, but make difficulties for them, and one soon observes who behaves well on principle and who for personal interest. This, on the human scale, is the function of Satan. This is a citation from Ziv ben Shimon Halevi, The Way of Kabbalah, pages 171, 172. Well, what is the purpose of evil? We seem to be getting a little closer here. Rabbi Halevi uses or believes apparently that the story of Job is illustrative of this problem. But to really get at it, you need to go back to the metaphor of the garden, or to that place known as the Garden of Eden. So let's do that. God created man a pure and holy being, and man's essence was, indeed, one of purity and holiness until such time as he became polluted by the serpent's venom. At that stage, impurity entered into his being, and ever since man remains an amalgamation of both good and evil, both purity and impurity. But since God has endowed man with the sacred gift of freedom of will, and since Israel freely chose the Torah, She has acquired the instrumentality by means of which to increase and enhance her innate purity and rid herself of the serpent's pollution. Indeed, this will transpire one day, and upon that day man will finally succeed in subduing his Yetzer and employing it properly in the service of his Creator. The Yetzer will henceforth be designated as being white. True, it cannot ever totally disappear, but it can be whitened. This is a citation from Elijah Judah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, pages 165 and 166. Now, as many of you will note, we are still talking in the range of the Sar. And as you recall, the Sar is a guardian angel, or you might say agent. It is for that reason, parenthetically, that I think Sar Associates in Potomac, Maryland, decided to use the term because they are no doubt agents themselves of real estate. In a like vein, it may be that the naming of this recent virus or biological critter was named SAR because it is an agent itself for the disease. But be that as it may, we do have this concept, the SAR, as a guardian angel, and amongst some of the deeper thinkers, amongst the sages, there would be 70, one for each nation. Now, Israel would have on its side as guardian angels Michael and Gabriel, so it might be said to have an advantage in having more than one, plus no doubt Yahweh being partial. But there is one competing entity, one possible foe of somewhat equal status, and that is Amalek, whose Sar is Samael. And as we have seen in previous programs, Samael and Satan are one. Therefore, the destructive agent known as Amalek is actually a front for the tester himself, Satan. So this seems to be the belief within some noted thinkers within this area of Jewry. So on this particular note, let's see if we can get a little bit deeper into this subject. Now, as a rule, God does not punish an individual for harboring evil thoughts, since thoughts have no true essence and therefore cannot be compared to actual deeds. Well, let me just break in to say that I'm sure that there are many viewers right now who are saying, whew, but this is only a view. It may not be true. Bear in mind that those thoughts of yours may be punished. But let's go forward. Furthermore, evil thoughts can frequently be negated by means of deep resolve and concentration on the part of the individual. Unfortunately, there is one exception to the rule: harboring idolatrous thoughts. These thoughts are qualitatively distinctive because the pernicious power of idolatrous sentiments derives from a core element of evil which lodges itself in man's heart and then spreads out to the limbs, activating the entire body. Now, theoretically, even idolatrous thoughts can be combated and neutralized prior to their actualization by means of man's ability to harness together both the hidden and revealed powers of God. Unfortunately, this is rarely the case. Why? Because, writes Rabbi Zadok, Amalek has severed the bonding between the hidden and revealed, thereby severing the world from its divine source and separating man from his Creator. The result is that evil thoughts are all too frequently translated into evil behaviors. Now this is a citation from Elijah Yudashakhet, Amalek, the enemy within, page 164. Well now, if one were to say that Israel is mostly good, just maybe a little bit of evil, it might be possible to say the opposite is true of Amalek, that Amalek is mostly evil with just a little tiny bit of good in there somewhere. But we seem to have kind of gotten into this by this severing, so that even if there is a little good in Amalek, it looks like maybe it's kind of gapped and difficult for Amalek to ever draw on, so he's always pretty much evil. But let's go forward here and see if we can get a better idea of Amalek and evil and SARS and how that plays upon Israel and the world, bearing in mind that probably idolators are not going to have a good time of it here. But let's go forward. What is the secret of Amalek's power? How is Amalek able to effect this tragic separation? Rabbi Zadok's explanation is that prior to the revelation at Mount Sinai, Amalek successfully penetrated the Kelipah of the Almighty, thereby causing a cleavage in the name of God, so that the unity of his name became impaired, and therefore the hidden and revealed elements of the universe became rent asunder. After all, God himself admits, "I have created the evil desire, and its potentiality is actualized in the world by means of the agency of Amalek." This is a citation from Elijah Yudashakhet, Amalek, the enemy within, pages 164, 165. Well, I do have an illustration I'd like to provide you, which gives the formation of man in terms of Hebraic lettering, and it is thought amongst some rabbis that this is a reflection of the idea of man being made in the likeness of Yahweh. So let's do that now. Well, that was pretty interesting, and I'm sure that you agree with me on that, that if that figure was somehow rent asunder by the evil efforts of Amalek, his Sar, Satan, somehow causing a disfigurement of this figure, it would cause great problems, problems which have the nature of evil, and which is the stumbling block for Israel and humankind. Now, it should be noted that if there is a interior renting in Amalek between the evil and the little bit of good, could it make Amalek or Satan schizophrenic? Could this be a schizophrenic or bipolar type of personality? Well, we do know from Job that Satan is a son of God. We do have from the ancient writings that he is the custodian of the law. So who better than Satan would know how to go about tempting mankind to break the law? So on that note, let's go forward. What justification can there be for the command to destroy all Amalekites, or the injunction to refuse to accept any Amalekite converts? Replies Rabbi Zadok, Amalek is the Daat idea of evil. It has no independent existence, but rather functions as a contaminating power, penetrating the human heart and activating evil behaviors. All other evils exist because God wishes for them to exist, and therefore they do contain a measure of goodness within themselves. Not so Amalek. God has no desire for Amalek to exist because Amalek represents the idea of evil incarnate and is totally bereft of any measure of goodness at all. This is a citation from Elijah Yudah Shaket, Amalek, the enemy within, page 165. Well, shut my mouth. It looks like Amalek doesn't even have that little bitty witty bit of good in him. Well, tough break. At any rate, we do feel obliged to go ahead and we want to say that in this whole process, it's very different. It's not possible for someone really to, it would seem, be his own Messiah. Help is needed, and in at least some element of Jewry's thinking on this subject, that element may be a mentor, what is known as a teacher or maggid. And that with such a person who often comes in the nick of time, it might be that a person could be elevated, so to speak, to perceive the evil and avert the problem. Or if evil already is indwelled, to perceive it and how to dislodge it. This is particularly something which a very holy person, a saintly person, a Zadokim could possibly perceive and do, but most people are not in that category, and they do need some help in dislodging or resolving their problems. And on that note, let's take a look at this. The first conscious contact with evil comes in the form of our own personal devil, who embodies the dark side of our ego. This sinister alter ego is a subtle fellow. He takes a long time to identify, but he must be identified before he can be dealt with. The maggid can help by pointing the villain out when he blows his cover, and only the aspirant himself cannot see it. This attack on the personal devil is only one of several conversion exercises that take place on the lower half of the Yetzeritic tree. There is, for example, a far more powerful devil that hovers above the self. As the Keter of Asaya, the self, is a physical glory of natural man, and as the Tiferet of Yetzer, it takes the form of psychological vanity. Both forms of self-love block the entrance to Bariah, the world of pure spirit. They often merge into the sin of pride, which is one of the 7 deadly sins. These demonic attributes are the evil side of the 7 lower Sefirot of construction in the human psyche and body. Well, now, that was pretty deep right there. Let's kind of mull that over and not make any immediate decisions here. We do, of course, encounter again the term spirit, and we have to suppose that, again, it is the Kabbalist who brought into the Christian realm, and perhaps others, the idea of spirit to spiritism. Certainly it is not, as we have shown in a previous program, to be part of the Hebraic tradition or understanding as given by Job and by Solomon and David and others. So we do encounter this, and a caveat, or for our Latin friends watching, Gadlut. So on that note, let's go forward, shall we? This is a kind of pilgrim's progress. Certainly within the realm of the 7 deadly sins, there would be plenty of area to fall down on the job, so to speak, to sin. Supposing that each one of these sins is a sort of personality of the Tsar of Amalek, that is Satan, Samael, it's no wonder it's difficult to get past the 7 deadly sins for the pilgrim who wants to go further, who wants to go toward the light, so to speak. But let's go forward now and see where we are at this point in time in this matter. The kind of evil that hovers above the level of the soul triad and lower spirit is beyond the comprehension of most natural men, but perhaps a hint of higher temptation is gained by a moment in T.S. Eliot's play Murder in the Cathedral, where Thomas R. Becket awaits his assassination. After a series of scenes in which the Archbishop easily handles the worldly enticements, he is assailed very subtly from within by the attraction of dying a noble martyr. This is quite an unexpected and different order of testing, and is summed up in the lines, "The last temptation is the greatest treason, to do the right deed for the wrong reason." Such a trial is placed before every Kabbalist, and is indeed always present at all levels on Jacob's ladder. Now this is a citation from Ziv ben Shimon Halevi, The Way of Kabbalah, page 174. Well, again, perhaps within this generalized concept, a saintly person, a Tzaddikim, may be able to do it. But for the natural man, the average person given to vanity and so forth, it's a tough go. And the pilgrim finds this quite a stumbling block, no doubt. Well, let us then go forward and see if we can find some way out of this problem. In order to enter the kingdom of heaven, a man must rise through various stages. This means mastering the natural world and embarking on the work of the chariot. Well, folks, it ain't easy, and as Mao pointed out, a trip of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. So our pilgrim has a real task, and of course, since very few people are saintly people, Tzaddikim, it does perhaps need the aid of a teacher or a maggid to even get you pointed in the right direction to take that first step. But let's go forward. At the lowest level, we have vegetable man. He is almost totally passive. The soul is present within him, but it is no more than a seed. He carries little or no weight spiritually because he possesses no real will or capacity to even move outside the rhythms that keep him alive. Let me interrupt to observe that life is in the soul in this way of thinking, that evil sort of smothers the life in the soul, that sin is the sort of manifestation of this, and that the 7 deadly sins are the great lower world peril. Now, when a soul is afflicted by evil, by sin, he feels guilt for this, but he cannot necessarily get out of it himself. Again, we have the idea of the teacher or maggid to help. The problem with the individual is that he has this guilt, and he can't get away from it. He can't move. Guilty feet ain't got no rhythm. So he's lead-footed, locked in place, and he does need this assistance. So Let's go forward. Mastery of the animal part of the nephesh is the next stage and level. The animal part, deprived of its pleasure, will be annoyed, but the human part may see the purpose of the deliberately awkward timing. Such a test can often precipitate an all-out war by the nephesh, aided by the ego against the Maggid, the group, and Kabbalah. However, the real battle is within the man. Now, let me interrupt here to observe that this concept may have been the genesis of anger management therapy and related therapies. We recently had a film actually come out called Anger Management with Jack Nicholson, playing the part of a teacher of Maggid by the name of Buddy Rydell, and Adam Sandler playing the lost, the disturbed, the sin, the fellow who needed help, and he did get it in the particular film. But it's interesting that this should all come out about the same time. But let's go forward. Assuming he has passed through these various stages of evolution and has reached the level where he can, at will, enter Tiferet, his position is very different from that of vegetable and animal man. As a being in conscious touch with three worlds, he carries more weight to affect the universe than perhaps a vast, crowd-filled Olympic stadium. The reason for this is simply that while he is in the state of Gadlut, the major condition, he is an instrument through which the upper world influxes may pass up or down. Of course, the significance of the situation is not obvious to ordinary men, but history reveals the effects of this kind of power through the persons of such men as Jesus and the Buddha. This is a citation from Ziv bin Shimon Halevi, The Way of Kabbalah, pages 176, 177. We're out of time. This is celebration.